Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says fundamentally, without the inner will of the psychic being, I believe human beings would be quite dismal, dull. They would have an altogether animal life. Every gleam of aspiration is always the expression of a psychic influence. Without the presence of the psychic, without the psychic influence, there would never be any sense of progress or any will for progress. With my love and blessings, says our Divine Mother.
हिरण्यदन्तं शुचिवर्णमाला क्षिप्तादपश्यमायुधामिमानम् ददानो अस्मा अमृतं विपृकृत् किं मामनिन्द्राः कृणवन् अनुगताः क्षिप्तादपश्यं सनुतश्चरन्तं सुमयूथं न पुरुषोभमानम् नला अग्निभ्रन्नजनिष्ठहीशः बलिक्लीरिद्युवतयो भवन्ति
Words of our Divine Mother, taken from the collective works of our Divine Mother, Volume 6, page 33, topic Waxing and Waning of the Psychic Contact. Our Divine Mother says generally one has a series of experience of identification very intense at first, which later gradually diminish, and then one day you find that they have disappeared. Still, you must not be disturbed, for it is quite a common phenomenon. But next time, the second time, the contact is more easily obtained, and then comes a moment which is not very far off when, as soon as one concentrates and aspires, one gets a contact. One may not have the power of keeping it all the time, but can get it at will. Then, from that moment, things become very easy. When one feels a difficulty or there is a problem to be solved, when one wants to make progress, or there is just a depression to conquer, or an obstacle to be overcome, or else simply for the joy of identification, for it is an experience that gives a very concrete joy. At the moment of identification, one truly feels a very, very great joy. Then, at any moment, whatever, one may pause, concentrate for a while, and aspire. Quite naturally, the contact is established, and all problems which were to be solved are solved. Simply to concentrate, to sit down and concentrate, to aspire in this way, and the contact is made, so to say, instantaneously. Our Divine Mother says, there comes a time, as I said, when this does not leave you, that is, it is in the depths of the consciousness and supports all that you do. You never lose the contact. Then many things may disappear. For instance, depression is one of these things, discontent, revolt, fatigue, depression, all these difficulties. And if one makes it a habit to step back as we say, in one's consciousness and see on the screen of one's psychic consciousness, see all the circumstances, all the events, all the ideas, all knowledge, everything. At that moment, one sees that and has altogether sure guide for everything that one may do. But this is bound to take a very long time to come.
So much for us, as worked, struggled, suffered, hoped, endured so much before thee, who hast willed all, attempted all, prepared, achieved all for us. Before thee, we bow down and implore that we may never forget, even for a moment, all we owe to thee.
Next topic, receiving the right inspiration from the Collective Works, Volume 6, page 340. Our Divine Mother says, when one is perplexed, when one has to make a choice, when one doesn't know what is the right thing to do, you see, one has to choose among two or three or four possible decisions and does not know which is the right one, then one must put oneself as far as possible in contact with one's psychic being and the divine presence in one, present the problem to the psychic consciousness and ask for the true light, the true decision, the one most in accordance with the divine will, and try to listen and receive the inspiration. In any case, you see, it is the right attitude.
Devant toi, nous nous inclinons en implorant, afin que nous n'oublions jamais, même pour un moment, tout ce que nous te devons.
Next topic, confidence of a child. Our Divine Mother says in volume 14, page 247, you must remember one thing. The dark periods are inevitable. When your psychic is active, you feel a delight without any apparent reason. It continues for some time, and again the same mental or vital reactions come in, and you go back to the darkness. This will continue. The brighter days will become longer, and the dark periods will come after longer intervals and for shorter duration till they finally disappear. Till then, you must know that the sun is there behind the clouds and you need not worry. You must have the confidence of a child, a confidence that there is someone who takes care of you and you can entirely depend on him. Next topic, psychic joy, taken from volume 8, page 199 of the Collective Works of Our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says pleasure in itself is something very fugitive. If you are speaking of joy, that is something altogether different. It is a kind of warmth and illumination in the heart, you see. You may feel joy in the mind also, but it is a kind of warmth and beatific illumination occurring somewhere. That is a quality which is not yet fully developed, and one is rarely in the psychological state that's needed to have it. And that is why it is fugitive. Otherwise, joy is constantly there in the truth of the being, in the reality of the being, in your true self, in your soul, in your psychic being. Joy is constantly there. It has nothing to do with pleasure, it is a kind of inner delight. But one is rarely in a state to feel it unless one has become fully conscious of one's psychic being. In volume 8 of page 249, our Divine Mother speaks about the psychic aspiration and says, as soon as the presence of the psychic consciousness is united with the aspiration, the intensity takes on quite a different character, as if it were filled with the very essence of an inexpressible joy. This joy is something that seems contained in everything else. Whatever may be the outer form of aspiration, whatever difficulties and obstacles it may meet, this joy is there as though it filled up everything and it carries you in spite of everything. That is the sure sign of the psychic presence. That is to say, you have established a contact with your psychic consciousness, a more or less complete, more or less constant contact. But at that moment, it is the psychic being and the psychic consciousness which fills your aspiration, gives it its true contents, and that's what is translated into joy. When that is not there, the aspiration may come from different parts of the being. It may come mainly from the mind, or mainly from the vital, or even from the physical. It may come from all the three together. It may come from all kinds of combinations. But in general, for the intensity to be there, the vital must be present. It is the vital which gives the intensity, and as the vital is at the same time the seat of the most of difficulties, obstacles, and contradictions, it is the friction between the intensity of the aspiration and the intensity of the difficulty which creates this anguish, says our Divine Mother. Next, from volume 15 of our Divine Mother's works, in page 277, our Divine Mother speaks about psychic virtues and says compassion and gratitude are essentially psychic virtues. They appear in the consciousness only when the psychic being takes part in active life. The vital and physical experience them as weaknesses, for they curb the free expression of the impulses which are based on the power of strength. As always, the mind, when insufficiently educated, is the accomplice of the vital being and the slave of the physical nature, whose laws, so overpowering in their half conscious mechanism, it does not fully understand. When the mind awakens to the awareness of the first psychic moments, it distorts them in its ignorance and changes compassion into pity, or at best into charity and gratitude, into the wish to repay, followed little by little by the capacity to recognize and admire. It is only when the psychic consciousness is all powerful in the being that the compassion for that needs help in whatever domain and gratitude for all that manifests the divine presence and grace in whatever form are expressed in all their original and luminous purity without mixing compassion with any trace of condescension or gratitude with any sense of inferiority. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says in volume 30 in page 374 about psychic sorrow, and says there is a psychic sorrow which usually comes when the soul feels how strong is the resistance in the world and how much the forces in it rage against the mother. Yes, there is a psychic sorrow of that kind, tears of longing for the mother, but psychic tears need not be sorrowful. They are also the tears of emotion and joy, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord says in volume 30 in page 377, as for the heart, the moment of longing for the divine, weeping, sorrowing, yearning is not essential in this integral yoga. A strong aspiration they must be, an intense longing they may very well be, an ardent love and will for union, but there need be no sorrow or disturbance. The quiet and silence you feel in your heart is the result of the pressure of the higher consciousness to come down. That always brings a quietude in the mind and heart, and as it descends, a great peace and silence. In the silent heart and mind, there must be the true attitude. And thus you have the feeling that you are the mother's child, the faith and the will to be united with her. Along with that, there may be an aspiration or silent expectation of what it is to come. That also you seem to have. All therefore is well, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo talks about psychic tears in the 32nd volume of the collective works in page 512, and says psychic weeping, a weeping from the soul deep within, tears of the soul's yearning, of sorrow for the resistance of nature, of joy or love or bhakti, does not cause a fall. It can help and open up the inner soul from its wheels, but this weeping has no strain or suffering in it. It is something very deep and quiet, brings a sense of purification and release. That is not so with the weeping which comes from the vital and is born of hurt or abhiman or disappointment or shakes or disturbs the nature, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord talks about psychic devotion in volume 32. In page 463, Sri Aurobindo says, both the love for the mother, which you feel so strongly, and the other tendency of harmony and affection with those with whom you live or work, comes from the psychic being. When the psychic intensifies its influence, this love for the mother becomes strong and it is the main mover of the nature. But there is also a feeling of goodwill, harmony, kindness, or affection towards others, which also comes up and is not so much personal as a result of the soul's inmost relation to all souls who are the children of the mother. There is no harm in the psychic feeling. On the contrary, it creates happiness and harmony. It is only the vital love between persons that has to be rejected because it draws away from the full consecration to the divine. But this love for the divine helps the growth of the soul into the Divine Mother's consciousness and helps the work and helps also the inner life to grow, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo.